in today's topic, we're gonna dive into modern dating. It was actually Wiz who came up with this idea, and I don't think I've ever asked him the reason why he came up with this. So you want to let me in a little details on how you came up with this topic out of all the topics that we could possibly talk about, Wiz?
Yeah, and also thanks for having me. One of the reasons I actually came up with this topic is because this is actually what I find most interesting in also evolving in a very fast pace. And in terms of this topic, let's say modern dating. Now, in terms of dating, this actually goes way back, mga matagal na years, you know, um, through our great grandparents and even older than that. So what I also noticed is in terms of like dating. So it actually evolved, like what I said, it evolved in such a way that, from my point of view, became so dangerous that it's actually hurting society and like or rather starting from teenagers down to young adults and you know, the list goes on. So I think this would be an interesting topic to discuss as well. And just to give my point of view and also get the audiences their their point of views, what's their take. Um, is it evolving in a sense that it's actually benefiting for everyone, or is it going down, downhill for everybody?
So, have you? My first question would be, um, how has dating changed in the digital age with apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, and the like? Um, and when did you start feeling this change?
Okay, so let me just go way back during the younger years ago, since I'm a 90s kid. So what I noticed is, number one, apart from personal experience, I also noticed, in terms of our grandparents and even our parents, they usually tell you or tell us rather um, how their how either how they met their or our grandfather or grandmother, how they met your mother or your father and so on.
And so on. Yeah.
So yeah, so what I notice is um again I'm just speaking in terms of our culture, the Philippine culture itself. We might touch base on other cultures like the Western culture, but I'm just gonna focus on ours first.
Okay.
So what I noticed is first would be the so-called quote unquote the Maria Clara thing. So number one, I find that very nice because to opposite sex or let's say are in the courting stage. So this this particular stage ensures that the guy is actually pursuing a woman and the woman is trying to make sure she preserves herself up until marriage, which to me as a guy is very important, right? And now fast forward, now that actually changed. Now in terms of our time today, uh,
Yeah.
I personally noticed that in terms of love making, it doesn't just apply to married people anymore.
Yeah.
So this actually goes with or goes along with teenagers, which they run the risk of teenage pregnancies. They also run the risk of being um, a
Un-
single parent in the long
unwanted
run.
unwanted diseases possibly too, right?
Well, that too. We can actually also include that.
Yeah.
Now, if you also notice, right? If you also notice, um, especially in terms of single parent household, it's really sad to see, it's like being a single parent, and I understand that we as teenagers we all make mistakes, right? this particular mistake would be life changing, and you will bear the well the burden. Well, not not the child being the burden, but the responsibilities that that goes with it. So siguro example na lang would be let's say a guy or a girl, the girl gets pregnant during high school or college, or the guy gets the girl pregnant during high school or college. So it actually shifts their lives in terms of parents. They want their kids to finish school first, then have a career, then settle down. That's the ideal way to go.
Would you
But
say? I'm sorry for
now,
interrupting. Would you say that's your
no.
ideal way?
Well, the way I see it, yes. I mean, you know, for me as a dad, wouldn't wouldn't we want, or as a parent, wouldn't we want our kids to, grow up, enjoy life, and at the right time, at the right age, and that's the time they actually settle down, compared to like, going to bars and all, doing hookups. Again, you run the risk of, um, well, especially for women, you run the risk of getting pregnant, and for guys, you also run the risk of getting a girl pregnant, which actually causes stress, especially when you're young.
Especially when you're not financially prepared for all the responsibilities, right?
Well, apart from being financially prepared, when you're a teenager, apart from being financially prepared, you're almost not prepared for everything yet,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of your career, your dreams, or whatever, right? So that will be put on hold, or rather, your dream comes crashing down. But that's actually not 100%, because there are some people, who get pregnant early, or they got someone pregnant very early, but they strive along the way. They became successful, but in terms of that success rate, I think it's pretty low,
Uh huh.
and most likely they end up, being a single parent, or their relationship doesn't really work or won't work. Then they just end up splitting up, and worst case scenarios, the girl will demand parang sustento from the
Basically,
dad.
the legalities will get involved, right?
Right. And it's like demanding alimony, and at the same time needing financially prepared young guy. So it screws everything up.
This actually leads me to my next question. And I personally want to hear your opinion on this, and I hope I could share my opinion as well. So leading into this, do dating apps make dating actually easier or more complicated?
Well, in terms of getting to know other people, it makes it a lot easier compared to the old times, because the old times, we're not yet that, high tech, so to speak. So the only way for you to get to know the person, it's either you write letters, um, well, medyo high tech na during that time kapag meron kang pager or beeper, or you just write letters, and you actually meet with them in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, compared to modern day dating, it's really easy, because you can just post your picture. Now, mind you, you can post your picture. Let's say if mukha ka na matanda, you can still post um
You have filters,
your
right?
younger. Yeah, well, apart from filters, you can post your younger self, so it makes it look, you're pretty, you look good, and this goes both ways for men and women. Okay, and I believe the term would be catfish, catfishing,
I've actually heard of
parang
that, but I don't actually know what it means. But since you're explaining that to me, yeah, I can think, I can imagine it like literally.
yeah, and and actually going back, it makes it a lot easy to say you get to see their face, their picture. You can actually just add your bio, like what's your occupation. I mean, basically just a short description about yourself. Then you can instantly message, right? So long as you have internet, meron kang data, so anywhere you, you, you can just message people. And if I'm going back to the 90s, my, my year, um, it already existed, but you actually need a computer or a laptop and a webcam. So this goes way back Yahoo Messenger days pa.
Right.
And we have this like mga camp frog, mga ganon.
Have you
So
ever have you ever come
um,
across Friendster?
yeah, I mean that's I believe my very first social media, and you know, so Friendster, it's also similar to Facebook. Pero syempre, Friendster, Friendster was the OG,
But
diba?
Friendster is like, okay, I don't mean to start an argument, but I feel like Friendster is one of those social media platforms where you get to do stuff that you can't do on Facebook. For example, you can actually have a music playing in the background. You remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
You can have your cover photo customized with animations and all of that. That's pretty neat if you ask me. Yeah.
yeah. And nakaka ano din siya, nakakalag din ng profile. But it's like the more clutter you have, the more astig yung profile mo, which I totally get it. GIF backgrounds, and you
Right.
have your music, and apart from that, I think one of the most key factors of Friendster which people were really hooked was about yung testy or yung testimonial,
That's the only, I
di
remember
ba?
that now that you mentioned it. Yeah, yeah.
Kasi in in nga yun,
Those were the good old
because
times,
people,
actually. Yeah.
oh yeah, good times, and going back to that, testimonial. So people would, a normal human being would love to read something or reading something from someone telling that what type of person you are, gano'ng kagaling ka ba it and all. So I specifically remember yung mga friends and classmates, training naman testy and all, diba?
I just
So
remembered something,
parang
by the way. You can actually find out if someone's stalked you or not, right? Yeah.
exactly, parang who viewed your
Who viewed your
profile,
profile?
so it
Yeah.
has that proven, right?
Right.
So I think well, again, I think that actually started evolving, starting from Friendster, and the only the only mode of communication by internet would be Yahoo Messenger, or any other messenger apps like meron, as far as I remember, meron pa MSN so apart from Yahoo Messenger. So it continually evolved in such a way that up to present, you actually don't need a PC anymore. So all you need to have is just your smartphone, have data or internet, then that's it. You can actually either use Facebook, meet people online,
Yeah.
and download applications like Tinder, or any other dating apps, or either you swipe left, or you swipe right. So from there, it it creates this this community which people would, either they want to hook up, they want to find true love, or what have you, right? But it also runs the risk of people, you know, trying to mask themselves, right? So it's good in a way. You meet a lot of people, but it's bad in a sense that they can actually mask, who they are, and pagdating na yung time na you guys are about to meet, parang, holy crap,
There will be
iba
disappointments
yung,
involved there, right?
exactly, like what you said, because of filters and all, and not just the face, mind you, because in our present time, if let's say you're a straight guy, oh, I'm good ganito, or super famous and whatever, but that girl's a dude, and vice versa, right? So
Yeah.
you know, so it's very misleading. Now, going back to your question, you know, is it easy now to like find a date? Yes, it's easy in a sense. It's pretty easy. It's just that the people using it have different intentions, so it makes it
True.
look really bad.
I have a question regarding the point you were making earlier about the Maria Clara, right? So, I want to ask you this question because I come from a different culture. For those of you watching who don't know, I'm partly Filipino and I'm also partly Middle Eastern, Lebanese to be specific. And the reason this popped in mind is because I come from a culture where you don't necessarily have this, I would say, courtship. Um, yeah, basically, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. We don't really have a courtship kind of stage. So what happens there is the woman will see. It's pretty. It's like if I would have to use an analogy, like how beetles, like the actual insects, beetles, when a male and female before a male and female beetle kind of like mate, they would have to be contested first by another male beetle. Now, as far as I remember, I need to check the facts on this. If the male beetle has like a longer horn, somewhere along those lines, I don't remember exactly. I might need to check on that. They're most likely to get the female. Now, how that applies in my culture, whoever has the more like resources like dough, well, most of the time it's dough, like money, right? Whoever is like more
Yeah,
successful in life or in status, they're most likely the ones to get, the woman,
the girl.
right?
Yeah.
And here's a catch, here's a kicker, by the way. So even though they have already sealed the deal, or like when they've finally, if when they're finally picked by the woman, they don't necessarily have to go through the courting stage where they have to meet the parents and all that. Yeah, they meet the parents, like introduction stage and all of that, but it's not to the point where like in the Philippines you have to make ligaw, where it's like you have to court the parents too. It's not like that over there. So over here, from my personal experience, I really couldn't understand the legal stage, or like the courting stage, where which one thing which really didn't sit well with me was that you always have to put your best foot forward, and the woman would have to kind of like see which guy has made the most effort. For me, maybe it's because of my culture influence. I really see that as a negative thing. What's your take on that?
Um, now you did mention earlier that yeah, in your culture. Oh, by the way, I'm half Filipino, half Spanish, and also half Danish.
Oh, okay.
So so in terms of what you mentioned earlier, that you know whoever got or the guy who has the most money and resources gets the girl. Now that's actually the same here, as far as I can tell. And uh, uh, apart from our country, I believe this applies to everywhere else, because I actually asked my grandmother as well as my wife. So coming from a woman's perspective, right? Now, it's like if you're a parent, right, and you have a daughter, and the moment your daughter gets married, okay, your daughter changes her last name, goes with the man, and leaves with the man, okay. So that girl follows the guy wherever that guy goes. So basically, the rule of thumb is, especially being a parent, you want to make sure that whoever your kung kanino mo ibibigay yung daughter mo, you also want to make sure that she's well provided. Now, going back to that parang um, Maria Clara scenario,
Mm-hmm.
that actually applies before. So there's this courting stage, that courting stage, dating stage. you wanna make sure you know makuha mo yung loob ng girl, and also the girl would also check. Okay, so he seems to be a nice guy. Now next would be, you know, if I'm a girl, I'll also think, okay, so if I like this guy, but can he actually provide for me? And if this guy wants to start a family, can he actually provide for us? What can what can he provide for me in exchange for me going with him, right? So, dun yung papasok yung like yung mga like yung inheritance, if there are any mga business, the land, and uh, and also as far as I can remember, before, I think this goes way back pa sa like sa grandparents natin, and even older, like they're they're also checking, or kaya ang mga baka nito, yung mga baboy nito, that anything that can actually sustain life and can also start a business. It's really important, which actually makes sense, right? I mean, in terms of financial stability, you know, parang sa atin mga lalaki, we want to make sure that when we have a wife, we want to make sure that that the ideal setup would be, let me take care of everything. All you need to do is just take care of the house, and if we have kids, just and I'll provide for everything.
Can I share
So
with you like
that
a? I'm sorry. Yeah, you finish.
yeah, I was just about to say that that concept also applies to prior to those who getting married. But but today, mind you, it's not, compared before. It's really easy to buy land, to buy houses, but now, you know the girls have to step in and also work to say,
Yeah.
you know you know yung salary natin dito sa Philippines, cost of living tumataas, and our paycheck just won't cut it. So even the girls also need to work to help the guy out. So medyo ano na. So it becomes even harder for a family to even afford a house, or rather just pay your electric bill, water bill, from
Uh
from,
huh.
from that alone. Like struggle na lahat eh, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's my take.
I want to share with you like a little story, and I want to hear your reaction to it. This is based on a true story, by the way. So I talked about my culture earlier, my father's culture. Um, so I have this cousin. Well, there's this thing in Lebanon where if your cousin is like years ahead of you, or perhaps like a decade above you, we usually call them uncle or aunt, regardless if they're your cousin or not. I don't know how it is over here in the Philippines, but basically that's it over there. So I have an uncle, so basically my cousin, who has lived in America for his entire life, and he went on a vacation in Lebanon for a month. Here's the interesting part. He talked to his friends, and I was there. I was just eavesdropping. Okay, and he said, "Find me a woman. Find me what do you call this? A wife, right?" So I thought they were just joking about it and just having a laugh and whatnot. But the next day, I saw them like get on a car, go to really far places because I would see his like posts on social media and stuff. Okay, and the next day he came back with a woman and introduced that woman to my family, my grandfather and everything. And uh, I don't want to sound a little negative on this, but here's what happened. They got married the day after he introduced her to the family, and then he moved over to the United States back with her and after he took care of the visa and all of that because she can't have the American citizenship yet at that time, right? So after that, it lasted for a month, but the marriage happened the day after, like he introduced them to the parents. So well, he's really no, he's really well off. He's very comfortable in his life, so he has the means to provide for her. So, uh, with regards to security, I think he has that, as we were talking about earlier. Um, then when he was able to move over to America with his now wife, they had kids a month later. And even until this day, when I take a look at their profiles, I see that they're really solid. They're doing pretty well, and you know, but one thing that's really in kind of lingering in my mind is that, um, do they truly love each other? Like, are they just in it because they're, I don't know, maybe perhaps like time is running out, like they might not be able to have kids when they get older, type of thing. But I want to hear your take on this. Like, I want to hear your reaction, Wiz.
Yeah. Um, that actually happens. I'm not, well, I can't say, happens all the time. It happens too often, but it does happen. Now, I don't really judge now in terms of how they feel, because for the most part, um, you know, especially if a U.S. citizen and that guy would, you know, is going to marry someone outside their country. So 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 most likely, um, you know, green card na yun. Now what ends up happening, uh, based on, my observation, either they get divorced because they already have the green card, you're a citizen and whatever. But some, it worked out, and the reason why it worked out because both both the girl and the guy actually, they made a choice that let's try to make this work. Now, in terms of getting into a relationship, you know, um, I don't really agree on as a partner. You have to give it more time just to make sure that you get to know that person really well. But then there's this other part of the question. Okay, so how can you say for these people, like what you mentioned, they just found their true love. I mean, no courtships or whatever, right? So it's a case-to-case basis. Number one, it depends on their intention, and number two, if both agree to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my case, and what before I got married, we didn't really go to that like courting stage
Uh huh.
because because yeah, because for some reason, okay, let's make a family, and we both agreed to make it work, and that's just how it happened. But you know in terms of other guys, like find me a wife. It's like selecting apples from a store.
That's how I felt, actually.
Right. So it's like, you it implies this notion that these girls are just like, tangible things that you can just pick, and okay, this one, if it doesn't work, okay, next, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um I'm not really sure, apart from girl, if he does want it, or at first she has this intention, just to, let's say, for example, just to get out of poverty and all. But maybe that changed. Maybe she found the guy's true intention. Maybe it's good, and they both fell in love with each other. It's really hard to tell, but it does happen. Now, in terms of the courtship, now I believe, I'm not saying it's really like mandatory, I would say, but I would encourage people to do that, because this is also to make sure, you know you won't be able to get to know the person through courtships alone. You'll only get to know the person once you live under the same roof. But you know um we also want to make sure that if 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 we're choosing this person to be with us forever, we want to make sure that we are carefully choosing who who we actually marry, and that's very dangerous. But also, it's well, based on my experience, it's also fulfilling because you actually have someone to grow old with. You can start your own family, have your own kids, and watch them grow up. You guys grow old together, hopefully. But yeah, that's that's my take. But what your cousin did was a pretty risky move because if let's say for example your your cousin provided everything, money, house and all, then suddenly the woman just decided to divorce him, right? So that's conjugal property, so it's fifty
Yes.
fifty, and that depends, right? So that's a very risky move, but if both, you know, they have this mutual respect and agreement to each other that okay, let's make this work, and they learn to love each other through time, then hey, congratulations. But going back, it's a very risky move.
I have two questions about that, Wiz. First thing is love learned, or is love like an instant, or rather, what's it? What, for lack of a better term? Well, let me rephrase my question: is love learned, or is it something that both people should feel? The reason I'm asking is because I've heard of cases where there is, or I've also been in a situation where I experienced unrequited love, uh, or like one-sided love, if you will. So that's my first question. Sorry. My second question is like, how do you know if someone is genuinely interested in a long-term relationship or short-term relationship or like casual?
Okay, so let me touch based on the first question. So is love learned or
Or
I
is
need
it
to
like
tell.
a feeling, a mutual feeling? Should it always be a mutual feeling? Yeah.
Okay, now for me, love is learned because you can actually be attracted to someone, you know. So obviously physical appearance would be your first, would be your first criteria because you cannot actually love someone you don't really know. And and I'm sure you'd agree. So let's just imagine you have this friend, a girlfriend, okay? Now this girlfriend of yours, let's say you guys have been childhood friends and just casual friends, either like best friends. Now she may not be your type, and let's say you know you have a crush on other girls, and your best friend was not one of them, or rather not your ideal girl. But for some reason, but for some reason, because of she's too kind, she's very caring, family oriented, or whatever. She has the traits that you actually want. Now that actually develops over time. Okay. Now this is regardless of her physical fe- feature, and this goes for girls too. They may not like they may not like this guy, but eventually, because of how she's being treated, eventually she's going to learn how to love this person. She's gonna fall in love with that person, and same with guys. Now,
Would there be a possibility, just to insert this question real quick? I'm sorry. Would there be a possibility of the girl just feeling like pity towards the guy and therefore just kind of reciprocating that feeling out of pity?
yeah. Now, if that girl is, if there's pity involved, there would be, different actions towards that because it it's like you. If I'm going to ask you, if I'm going to ask you a question, so in terms of, if let's say you actually love someone, how would you treat that person in versus if you actually pity someone? So the actions maybe or maybe the same or at least very similar, but the intentions would be different because when you actually love someone, you actually there's this level of care. If let's say um let's just say your girlfriend or your friend girl. Okay. Now let's insert these two scenarios. First one is, do you love the person? So if you love the person, let's say either you give money, if let's say she doesn't have any food to eat. You give her money, you give her food, then you think of a way, the next day if she's gonna have um let's say food to eat. So you plan ahead just to make sure that this person lives longer versus out of pity you can actually just give money or give food, then that's it, right?
Hmm.
Again, that's just the example that went onto my head. But in terms of level of care, actually when you actually love someone, you would do almost, or rather anything, just to make sure that person is safe, is taken care of, is happy, compared to out of pity.
Interesting. Which leads me to my second question. Like, how do you know if someone's genuinely interested in a long-term relationship or casual? Because the reason I'm asking is I want to share based on personal experience. I have, I, I'm an avid user of dating apps because I'm single. Okay, and I can't help but come across these countless profiles where I see these women putting on their bios date to marry, like literally the phrase date to marry. But when I read something like that, it I don't know, because it doesn't really it doesn't seem like it's in confluence with what I'm seeing on their pictures. So what I'm seeing on their pictures is like really um, well, how do I term this? The pictures are that of a woman who does not
Liberated,
seem to be serious about getting married, if you will. So can you see where I'm getting
kind of
at?
like liberated.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. How would your question was, how would you know if this person genuinely loves you or just wants something casual, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, their actions will actually speak for it because look, let's just dive into your example. If let's say on that particular dating app, it says date to marry. Okay, but their picture actually shows otherwise. Now, for me, my take on that is I'll actually ask myself, right, does she really want to date to marry? And does she even understand the word getting married? Because when you get married, you know, all, you have to stop things that like normal people now would do. Let's say going to bars, drinking with friends, and hookups and whatever. So the way I see it, those people, again, it's not 100%, but for the most part, the way I see it, they just want to have like someone in a relationship, like a boyfriend girlfriend thing. Because if someone really wants to, let's say, um, marry someone, they could actually go ahead and do that through dating apps because some people really want to settle down and want to pick and choose. I mean, whoever likes me, okay, let's see if this will work. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work, okay? So there's still a 50-50 chance that it could or it may not work.
Because it's really
But
easy to fake, your what you say
Right.
or your thought or try to
Exactly.
just to convince someone, like especially if you like some if you're physically attracted to somebody and you just want to please that person, it's so easy to make things look like it's genuine, but in reality it's not. That's the kind of complicated part of it, right?
Exactly. So it's really hard to tell unless you meet with this person, you have this casual conversations, you both go out. Let's say the term date. So you guys go on dates, let's say coffee shop, and talk about things.
Yeah.
And you will also, be cautious because you want to make sure that, when, from a guy's perspective, you also want to make sure that, okay, so if I'm going to get this girl to be my wife, I want to make sure she's, family oriented, she's nurturing, she's caring. And you'll actually see that once you witness, number one, how she treats people, how the way she dresses, the way she speaks, the you can also include the friends that she hangs out with, how she acts when she's with her family. So everything is correlated. But one thing I personally check is if this girl is actually, when she's at home, does she like, you know, let's say cook something for the family? Does she, is she very tidy in terms of fixing things like her room, herself? Because those factors are very important because once you marry a person, that will actually manifest on how she treats herself and her family back at home, and it's gonna manifest when you guys are together.
So I got this uh match in the past on a dating app, and she had like this checklist of things she wants to see in a guy physically, and one of them was that the guy has to be 5'9" and above. So we didn't talk too much about like her, expectations out of me because she thought like when she matched me, I kind of fit the mold, through my
Yeah.
pictures and everything. So I wanted to see what what she would respond or how she would respond if she knew what my actual, or if I lied to her about my height. So I told her I was I'm 4'11". I lied to her basically. And believe it or not, the moment she heard that, there was like a because we moved on to Messenger, by the way. So I normally, like when I talk to people, I want to see if that's their real account or fake account, because let's face it, dating apps are bombarded with a lot of bots and like
Yeah.
people who use fake accounts for scams. So I wanted to see if she's legit, just like what I do with other girls. I add them on Messenger and I check whether her account's legit. So when I talked to her on Messenger and I lied to her, there was a message at the bottom of the Messenger application that says this person is unavailable or cannot be contacted in Messenger. She basically blocked me. And so this leads me to my question now, which is, do you think dating has now become more transactional in a way?
Well, in terms of being transactional, what do you mean? Is it like, you know,
Like,
is it like a
there's
script?
supposed to be a script or like a checklist or a criteria that you have to meet.
Well, um, if if you're going to ask me, it's like, I'm just putting myself from a girl's perspective. Okay. Now, if I'm a girl, right? Now, if I'm gonna get married and have kids, because I want to make sure that my kids look really good, they're tall, if they're boys and all. So those are the things that we, as guys, we really can't avoid, but there are some people, and especially guys, that let's say, for example, us guys, okay, we want to make sure that this girl is, like petite, have big boobs and big butts, and has a pretty face, long hair, or whatever your ideal girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but during the course of time, if you guys get to, get together, mingle together, sometimes, or it may come a time that regardless of her physical appearance, you'll still love her, and regardless of what your children look like, you will still love them based on whatever, right? But if given a choice, right? If I'm going to ask you, if given a choice, would you rather go with any other girl that who basically likes you back and wants to, let's say, marry you or be with you, compared to, like, you know you want to choose a specific girl, your ideal girl, or close to your ideal girl, right? So um it goes both ways. But in terms of being transactional, I think it would still be the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, you know, I mean, they have their criteria, right? They have their own criteria, but in terms of girls, or even guys, I mean, why not, why not try it out first? You might, I mean, you might like the person. I mean, if that person, let's say, by height, even though that person doesn't meet your height requirement, I know it's good. I know it's going to be a turn off, but what if that guy is actually, like, hobby material? He can provide. He's a caring guy. He could be, or he can be a very loving father. I mean, why not? Compared to, you run the risk that, okay, so I have this, physical physical traits all checked in my checklist. But at the end of the day, this guy's a full douchebag, so it beats the purpose. But
Mm.
yeah, going back in terms of transactional, it's going to be there regardless. But it's really up to the person if they are willing to, let's say, accept what they have in front of them, or they can just choose to, like, move on and find some other guys. Hopefully, let's say a 5'9" in height, or whatever, has abs, and can be a caring father, can be a caring husband, you name it. But it still didn't change. It's just that we went to that stage, to the being a digital age, rather.
I have a question regarding dating apps. I I don't know if I'm like one of the few people who noticed this, but I've used Tinder's subscription model in the past, countless times, and I noticed one thing. It's like when we use like a subscription model, we are somehow taken into this specific area, like a virtual area, where we are unseen by the public, and well, we are still seen, but not as much exposed as we are on a free account or a free subscription. Um, and when your subscription runs out, they basically expose you to more women, or more people, in this case, more matches, which then you cannot see their faces unless you subscribe or resubscribe.
Exactly.
So
And
yeah,
yeah, so sorry to cut you off.
yeah,
I was actually a former chat moderator for an adult dating website, so I actually get what you mean.
uh huh,
So basically, people need to subscribe, and as far as I remember, you need to, like, top up to have this, like, coins, or they're like in-app currency, for you to be able to
virtual
talk to
currency,
women.
yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but most of the guys don't know, those people behind are actually guys trying to, like, make you just respond, making it seem like they care. They're actually women, but they already have these pictures, like a picture bank, on their account. So imagine this: if you actually pick a profile, let's say you pick this specific profile. Okay, now if you pick that profile, and I'm gonna get you as my, let's say, quote unquote customer, then from there, I will make you think that I am that girl, and I have already pictures uploaded. And mind you, these pictures uploaded are already pre-made. So, so all I need to do is just respond to your chats, and all I need to do is just if you ask me pictures, I'll send you those pictures,
Mm-hmm.
making you believe that no, that's me.
Right. So, um, with having said that, I think dating apps are kind of making people more depressed in a way, if you think about it, because in order for you to get that kind of exposure, you would need to spend money, and then you would be trapped in this area where you are limited to accessing matches and all that. So it's kind of sad if you think about it. So how important?
It's sad.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually sad and dangerous at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because from my observation, if let's say, for example, um, let's say a couple, or couple in the sense that either their boyfriend or girlfriend, and and also married couple, if let's say they actually, if they're not in good terms, um, the, well, mostly guys, would go to Tinder and just blow up some steam and run the risk of ruining their relationship. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's really dangerous.
Well, one of my exes, I met her on a dating app. Well, not exactly a dating app, more like a social media platform. It's called Facebook, and she was the one who started a conversation uh, between us in the first place. So, long story short, our relationship lasted for 4 years, and we somehow ended up splitting or like breaking up because of I would say social media pressure and comparison. So to talk about it in detail, um, she mentioned something to me that she was not happy with the way things are. She just living with me, and she was um, in a state of mind where, or she was also trying to convince me that she would be happy if we started a family. Now, the point I was trying to make there, my response to that basically was, I wanted us to be able to save money and be financially stable first before we have a kid. That way, we won't have money problems in the future once we get to that stage. So that's where the disagreement kind of stemmed. And she kind of used, she told me basically that her friends and colleagues are all happily married and they all have children and everything. So that kind of put me off a little bit because I don't understand why it is necessary for her to jump on the bandwagon and or to follow her friends and colleagues, footsteps because their lives are different from hers. So my question leading into this conversation is, how do couples deal with social media pressure and comparison in relationships?
That's actually pretty hard because social media comparison would stem a lot of things. Now, stating your example, um, coming from a guy's perspective, you know, well, even for girls, right? So, um, being financially stable is like the number one priority before settling down, right? But there there is this all there is another notion that, well, if you guys are not yet financially stable, you can actually get married, okay, and build your empire together. That's even way better because for me, that way you both would have this, idea that since you guys built it together, you will have this parang sense of care and sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, being successful together, and that's what you will, in terms of appreciation. I mean, that's where the word appreciation comes into play. Now, in terms of social media comparison, again, it would stem a lot. If, let's say, for example, you're married and you guys don't have your own house yet, you don't have your own car yet, okay? Now, if you or mostly women would see your friend or her friend or whatever, they're successful, they have their own house, so there's this sense of comparison, like buti pa sila,
Mm-hmm.
you know, buti pa sila, they already have their own, tayo, ganito pa din for how many years, you know, especially coming from a guy, we would actually feel really, really down. It's like
It can also affect our
parang
self-esteem in a way, right?
exactly, yes. It will affect our self-esteem. It's like hindi na appreciate ng partner mo what you do, regardless how hard you work. Now, there are times that no matter how hard you work, it's just that given the situation, given the work, ito lang talaga yung kaya mo i-produce, right? But if you guys work together, parang tag team na kayo dun eh. So
Yeah.
that's a different story. But um, this will also stem then, it depends on how people use social media in terms of comparison. Because if you compare, everything everything falls apart.
Yes. And that's the kind of effect social media has on people. Let's face it. I understand that social media has like the good side of social media is that you can stay connected with your loved ones, with the people you care about. But there's also a downside to it. If you're exposed too much
Exactly.
onto social media, it will then create this misconception that you have to live the lives of the people you see on on the page, right?
Mhm. Right.
Well, this was such an insightful conversation about modern day dating. I think we touched on a lot of important topics, and I want to expand further in another episode, from the ups and downs of dating apps to how social media plays a role in our relationships today. There's no doubt that dating has changed a lot, but at the end of the day, it's still about connecting with others and building meaningful relationships. So if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. It really helps us out. And hey, if you got any stories, thoughts, or experiences about your dating in today's world, the comment section is below. I'd love to hear all of them. And thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. Stay tuned for more real conversations about life, love, and everything in between. Until next time.